Dake is my name. If you come to Peki, where I come from, Peki Jake, where I come from, and you mention Dake, nobody will know who you are. But if I say Dake, they can take you straight to my home, to my clan, to where I'm supposed to be. I had my childhood in Tamale, in the northern region. My parents moved to the eastern region, so I followed them naturally to Impakadan, which is in the eastern region, which shares the border with the Volta region, if I must put it like that. And then I moved on to join my elder sister, who was in Koko, again in the eastern region, where I also continued my education. And then we settled finally at in Nsawam. In Nsawam, where then my parents settled for quite a long time. Actually, we do have a home in Nsawam, also in the eastern region. So somehow we've been around the eastern region. So that's where I finished my, what we call my elementary school. I went to, it's not an Sejan school. It used to be the experimental school, experimental primary school. And then from there again, I went to my secondary school in Ukwakman School in the early 70s. So I did my up to Form 5 and then to Upper 6 in Ukwakman School. And then I came to the University of Ghana, where I studied English and theater. In 1982, I started working at the Ministry of Culture and Tourism. I was the, as they put it at that time, acting deputy secretary and special assistant to the minister at the ministry. And then I moved on from there to work with the National Youth Organizing Commission about 1984, 1985. And after that, I came back and joined the National Commission on Culture. I was the director of programs. And then subsequently became director of Panafest. I'm sure you've heard about Panafest, yes. So I was the director for the first 3 international editions in 1992, 1994, and 1997. And then I left public service and went to private practice. I set up a company called Heritage Development, and I've been the CEO since then. Panafest was initiated actually by, it was based on a proposal made by Dr. Ifwa Sutherland. She was a playwright, a cultural icon, and she wrote a paper which suggested the celebration of the Pan-African Historical Theatre Festival. So in 1992, I was then director of programs, and then I was seconded from the National Commission on Culture to become the director of the international phase of Panafest. So Panafest 92 was quite major. It brought together Africans on the continent and the diaspora to celebrate what is African. It developed rapidly, and in 1994 we had a major celebration, which over a number of cities here in Ghana. So Cape Coast as the host city, then Accra, Takoradi, Koforidua, Kumasi. It was major at a time when we didn't have internet. So, and it was all being held at the same time. We had an 18-hour concert at Independence Square. So it was quite a major celebration. It was quite big. And then in 1997, we had another experience also in 1997. I mean, doing 3 international festivals was tiring for me, very consuming. It took a lot of toll on myself physically. So in 1997, I decided to bow out from the guy, and then of course it continued. We had challenge of infrastructure. I remember I used to go like from Cape Coast to Accra 3 to 4 times a day, go and come. Yeah, that was it, that was the experience. Internet, we didn't have internet. We had internet much later, towards 1996, 97. So you can imagine coordinating an international festival with all these participants across the world, basically on phone, like telex, fax machines, and so on and so forth. We have people that are out there who are putting out things out there in the international arena, in the international space. They are out there. We could do much more. I think we could do much more of putting, our cultural resources out there. I think that we can do a lot more. So that is a challenge for us. How do we put what is indigenous out there? Because what is indigenous out there is what creates jobs for our people. So, for example, the textile industry and fashion. How do we ensure that our agriculture feeds into industry? The cotton industry, for example, how does that feed into our textile industry? And how that is, satisfy the needs of our own people, and then also create jobs for our own people. And how do we market that internationally, get onto the fashion market, and so on and so forth. Because culture should address our fundamental needs as a people. Needs of food, clothing, and shelter, of security, and how do we ensure that we influence the constructs that we have, our legal systems, our political systems, and so on and so forth. How do we put our issues out there in the international? How do we market ourselves much more in the international arena and in space? Those are challenges that we have. The global market is huge, and foreign countries and so on would want to put their things out there for you to buy. So they want to put on their material, their foods, their so on and so forth. How do you ensure that you're also able to compete? Whether you like it or not, they'll jump into your window, and they'll try and dominate you. The language and so on, the language we are using, for example. How do we promote our indigenous languages, for example? Because these are the things that create jobs based on what we have. We cannot promote what they have. If we do that, we promote their industries, we promote their job markets, and so on, their GDPs and so on. How do we enhance our own GDP? It's from what we have as a people, our indigenous health methods and resource. How do we put all that out? How do we market and ensure that people gain the maximum from what we have? In my early 20s, 21, 22, I stopped wearing coat and tie. In 1982, I remember I went to an international conference. I wore a coat and a tie, and I felt awkward. They all wore coat and ties, but the other Africans, the Nigerians, and so on were in their traditional garb. And I came back and I said, so I never wore a tie. I don't have a tie. I don't have a coat. I don't. Oh yes, I don't. And I'm proud about that. Yes. If we continue masquerading ourselves in coat and tie and so on, and wearing foreign materials and so on and so forth, we'll continue to promote other people's markets and industries. That's what it is. It's as simple as that. That's the logic. So leaders need to use that opportunity they have as leaders to project what we have as a people. The more we do that, the more we are respected. Sometimes we think that when we wear the foreign clothes and so on and so forth, then we are respected. I'm sorry to say that we are ridiculed. I want to see that our nation pays more attention to culture development, to culture and its development, and also that culture informs development. Unfortunately, we don't. We see culture again as artifacts, as music, as dance, and so it's much bigger than I've talked about the cultural and the creative industry. It's huge. It's huge. America is it's a huge. The film industry, music industry, and so on is huge in America. And I think that we should give opportunity for our cultural actors and our creatives to contribute to development. Many young people today are social media savvy. That skill can be used positively, in developing and create opportunities for themselves, particularly in industry. And young people, visuals, film, and other aspects of technology, and so on. So I think that they can create markets for themselves. People are doing a lot of good things, and I think that the younger generation can take advantage of that. Okay. I'm a patron of the Ghana Culture Forum, so I'm still quite active. I still do production. Particularly in events. I do a number of events. I'm sure you've seen that from your research. I do conferences, so I still do those, not as actively as I used to, but I do that. I don't do. It's not everything that I do. I'm very choosy about what I do. Things that are completely relevant to society, to our people. That continue to edify our people. Those are things that I touch. So you can have millions of dollars, but you cannot get me to do some things that are completely unethical. I'm married to Akunu Dake, who is also a retired teacher, headmistress, and I have 3 children. I walk a lot. I do a lot of walking. I bike a lot. I used to play tennis a lot. I don't play very much because of physical inhibitions.
So strong.
Well, I thank you very much. I thank you. I can play a few balls here and there, but not as actively as I used to. I'm one of the persons that do not criticize the younger generation. I don't. People are the youth people, the youth, they are wayward. They are no. We have not set the right examples for them, and we have not led them well. If we provide leadership for them, they will follow. I know that because I've worked with young people. I work at the National Youth Organizing Commission. I work as a director of the Community Youth Cultural Program. And I work with young people and skills. If you offer them space to develop their skills, they'll develop it. Young people themselves, I think that, saying that also, there are many things that, of course, are not endearing. That makes people then pigeonhole them, And I think that they should take opportunities, they should take advantage of the opportunities that are offered, particularly in the area of technology. Many young people today are social media savvy. That skill can be used positively, in developing and create opportunities for themselves, particularly in industry. And young people, visuals, film, and other aspects of technology, and so on. So I think that they can create markets for themselves. People are doing a lot of good things, and I think that the younger generation can take advantage of that and develop themselves.